India is spending $9 billion to build a brand new city and military base on a jungle island, 90 miles from the waterway that keeps China's entire economy alive. And Beijing might be furious about it. Picture the Indian subcontinent. Now, drag your finger south, past the tip of India, Sri Lanka, and keep going out into the Indian Ocean until you hit a long, scattered chain of islands called the Andaman and Nicobar Islands. There are 572 of them. Most are empty and have never had a single human footprint. Great Nicobar Island, the very last island and southernmost point of all Indian territory. It is roughly the same size as Singapore, blanketed in one of the oldest, densest rainforests in Asia, sits approximately 90 nautical miles from one of the most important waterways in the entire world. That waterway is called the Strait of Malacca. And once you understand what flows through it, you will understand why India is willing to spend nearly $10 billion on an island that most of its own citizens have never heard of. Every year, about 100,000 ships squeeze through the Strait of Malacca. That's a narrow strip of ocean between Malaysia, Indonesia, and Singapore. And it's one of the busiest, most important waterways on the planet. Now here's the number that changes everything. 80% of China's oil travels through that strait. 8 out of every 10 barrels China needs to keep its economy running, passing through one narrow channel. Chinese generals even have a name for this problem. They call it the Malacca Dilemma. If that strait ever gets blocked, for any reason, China starts running out of energy within weeks. It's their biggest strategic fear. So ask yourself, who is sitting just 90 miles from that strait and about to build a massive port and military base right at its entrance? India, the holistic development of Great Nicobar Island. India is going to spend 81,000 crore rupees, that's roughly $9.4 billion, to transform this wild jungle island into a fully functioning megacity. The project rolls out in 3 phases, with full completion targeted for 2047. So what exactly is going in? First, a massive transshipment port at Galathea Bay, capable of handling 14.2 million container units per year. Today, when Indian goods are exported across Asia, many of them must stop at ports in Singapore or Sri Lanka just to be loaded onto bigger international ships. India pays for that service every single time. With a world-class port at Great Nicobar, India handles that itself and charges everyone else instead. Second, a military and naval base. Great Nicobar will become a permanent strategic outpost. Ships, aircraft, surveillance systems, all positioned within striking distance of the Strait of Malacca. India will be able to watch every vessel that moves through that waterway. Third, a full township, a real city built from scratch. Housing, hospitals, schools, a 450 megawatt power plant, desalination facilities, everything needed to support a permanent civilian and military population. An entire urban settlement carved out of ancient forest, designed to eventually hold hundreds of thousands of people. And fourth, an international greenfield airport designed for both civilian and military use, capable of handling 4,000 passengers per peak hour. Put it all together, and what do you have? Something that looks remarkably like the early blueprint of a city-state that rose to dominate the same ocean decades ago. Singapore's entire rise to global power came from one thing: location. In the 1960s, it was a small, swampy island with no natural resources, no hinterland, and almost no money. But it sat right at the junction of the Indian Ocean and the Pacific, at the throat of the Strait of Malacca. Its leaders looked at that map, built a world-class port, then a world-class airport, then a financial hub. And today, Singapore handles around 40% of the world's container transshipment traffic and is one of the wealthiest nations on Earth per person. India is looking at Great Nicobar Island and seeing the same opportunity, same ocean, choke point, and logic. Except India brings something Singapore never had: a population of 1.4 billion people, massive navy, permanent seat on the world stage, and very specific rival it wants to check. That rival, by the way, is exactly why this project became so controversial back home. Because not everyone in India agreed it was worth the cost. And if you made it this far, thank you. These documentaries take a lot of time to research, write, and produce. If you enjoy this kind of content and want to help support the channel, you can make a small donation through the first link in the description or the pinned comment. No pressure at all, but every bit genuinely helps keep more videos like this coming. Now let's go back to the video. For years, this project faced fierce legal challenges. Environmental scientists, conservationists, and indigenous rights advocates took the Indian government to court to try to stop it. And their concerns weren't minor. Great Nicobar Island is one of the most biodiverse places on the planet. The Galathea Bay area, exactly where the port is planned, is one of the last remaining major nesting sites in the world for the giant leatherback sea turtle. These are the largest turtles alive today, growing up to 7 feet long and weighing up to 2,000 pounds. They have been nesting on these beaches for millions of years. The island is also home to the Shompen and the Nicobarese, two of India's most vulnerable indigenous communities. Together, around 1,761 people live on this island, following ways of life that go back thousands of years. Critics point out that a tribal welfare officer was nominated to give consent on behalf of the Shompen, a tribe that, under Indian law, has the legal right to consent for itself. The biggest environmental clearance hurdle fell on February 16, 2026, when the National Green Tribunal ruled that adequate safeguards have been provided and refused to block the project. By May 2026, with the master plan formally notified across 3 phases, the project moved from blueprint to reality. Now, to be fair, the project still faces court challenges over the rights of the people who live on this island. And those rulings could affect how fast things actually get built. We'll be watching closely. Over the past 2 decades, China has built what strategists call the String of Pearls. It is a network of ports and strategic footholds stretching from the South China Sea all the way through the Indian Ocean and around the Horn of Africa. Ports in Pakistan, Sri Lanka, Myanmar, Bangladesh. Each one gives China influence, visibility, and strategic depth across the seas it depends on. India has watched this with growing unease. The port in Hambantota, Sri Lanka, just off India's southern tip, was built with Chinese loans and eventually handed over to China on a 99-year lease when Sri Lanka couldn't repay its debt. A Chinese-linked port sitting right in India's backyard. Great Nicobar is India's answer. A port that India owns, controls, and can use, commercially and militarily, positioned to monitor every ship that enters or exits the Strait of Malacca. One Chinese government-linked analyst described it as a dagger pointed at China's jugular. Look at a map, and you'll understand exactly why they said that. Great Nicobar Island today has almost no infrastructure, major roads, power grid, and urban development. The terrain is steep, heavily forested, and cut through by fast-moving rivers. The project alone requires diverting nearly 130 square kilometers of forest and felling close to 1 million trees. The island sits directly on one of the most active seismic fault lines on Earth, the same megathrust fault that triggered the 2004 Indian Ocean tsunami, which killed 230,000 people across 14 countries. That day, the southern tip of Great Nicobar itself sank by around 15 feet and slipped into the ocean. As recently as July 2025, geologists warned that a cluster of smaller earthquakes near the Nicobar Islands could signal volcanic activity in the Andaman Sea. India is choosing to build on that ground anyway, because the prize at the end is worth every rupee, every engineering headache, and every legal battle fought along the way. Great Nicobar is just one move in a much bigger game. Right now, India is upgrading bases, growing its navy, and locking in alliances with the US, Japan, and Australia. The pressure on China is building from every direction, and China is moving too. Beijing wants Thailand to build a canal that would cut straight through Southeast Asia, skipping the Strait of Malacca completely. If that happens, the whole equation changes overnight. So the real question is simple. Will Great Nicobar become India's Singapore? Or will the lawsuits, the earthquakes, and the human cost get in the way? That jungle is about to be torn down. What gets built in its place could change this entire part of the world. Don't miss what comes next. And while you're here, India doesn't just build strategically by the sea. It builds at the top of the world too. This one is about the bridge India had to construct in one of the most extreme, unreachable places on Earth, and why it changed everything for the people who live there. It's right there on your screen. See you in that one.